Hello ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners. My name's Dan. Welcome back to another PAP Reports. Today is Thursday the 5th of March 2020 and today we're starting with a correction on one of yesterday's reports. Now you should remember this creepy looking cretin, Jonathan Plummer, aka the Vile Degrader, who was in court for 7 offences relating to the possession and distribution of indecent images of children and possessing extreme pornographic images. In yesterday's report, I explained how the trial jury had been discharged and I showed a source explaining what this meant. Now it appears that although I do try and ensure that all the sources are fully legitimate and relevant, the information I shared about what a discharged jury meant was not entirely relevant for the UK system, although the information came from a UK website. And so, to clear that up, I first wanted to apologise for that mistake and give you the information that does relate to the UK judicial system on discharging the jury. Based on what I've now found via the Crown Prosecution's website, and bearing in mind that Plummer is to attend a new trial after the discharging of the jury in last week's trial, the Crown Prosecution Service website says that a variety of circumstances may result in a defendant being retried. For example, the failure of a jury to agree upon a verdict. I mean, that's possible, but I'm sure that would have been announced in court, when the jury came back from their deliberations rather than being discussed in private in the judge's chambers. The failure of magistrates to agree upon a verdict. Well, this was a Crown Court, so it can't be that reason because there was no magistrates there. A retrial being ordered by the Court of Appeal. Well, this was the first trial, so it can't have anything to do with an appeal. A retrial following a tainted acquittal by intimidation, for example. Well, Plummer wasn't found not guilty, as far as I can tell, prior to his attendance in Crown Court, so I can't imagine this being the reason for the discharge either. An irregularity in the form of proceedings that resulted in the jury being discharged. Now, this refers in part to when the jury are given information that a judge cannot reasonably believe they won't take into consideration in their deliberations. For example, the prosecution barrister may have said something which they shouldn't, and even after the judge rules the jury to disregard that statement, he or she feels that the jury would not be able to reasonably ignore what was said and so can taint the impartiality of their decision. Now, this to me seems like a very reasonable reason for the jury discharge. Although, a retrial in respect of a very serious offence where new and compelling evidence comes to light pursuant to Part 10 of the Criminal Justice Act 2003 could also have happened if more evidence has come to light which would make a big difference or have a big effect on the potential outcome. Then the jury could have been discharged in order to start afresh with a new jury with no preconceptions due to the previous evidence in that hearing. So there you have it. If I make a mistake, I will always try and amend that, and it is never my intention to give false information. However, sometimes I will make mistakes. I mean, I am human, but I will always try and rectify those. Anyway, moving on to today's reports. Annabelle Forbes, a 22-year-old from Westcliff in Essex, was arrested on November the 25th last year in Preston Road, Southend, following a disturbance. Now, although Forbes wasn't the cause of the disturbance, she did become belligerent when police attended, trying to grab one constable's earpiece, for which she was taken to the ground and handcuffed for, and then kicking out when she was against a police car in handcuffs, which caused the police to once again put her to the ground. This time, however, they put her to the ground with force while she was handcuffed, and this caused her face to hit the pavement, breaking several teeth and lodging one tooth into her gum, which later caused an infection. Now, the police, rather than getting Forbes medical assistance, instead took her straight to the police station where the custody sergeant had to tell them to get her medical treatment. Whilst in custody, Forbes allegedly spat at one constable and later pushed another with her foot. She was later charged with and admitted 5 counts of assault of emergency worker, plus racially aggravated intentional harassment, alarm or distress. The court heard Forbes of Hamlet Road, Westcliff, had been taking medication for anxiety, combined with drinking alcohol, which caused her behaviour to spiral. Judge Samantha Lee demanded an explanation as to why Forbes was pushed to the floor, as she was in handcuffs and had no way of protecting her head. And she also queried why she did not receive immediate medical attention. She added, "I would like to know why she was pushed to the floor and not taken to the floor. She face-planted the floor." For this reason, Essex Police are investigating themselves in order to come up with an excuse that they think is appropriate for themselves. A police spokesman said, "An investigation is currently being carried out by our Professional Standards Department in relation to this case, and therefore we are unable to comment while inquiries are ongoing." What a surprise there. We do, however, take on board the judge's comments. Yes. Of course you do. Police Scotland's attitudes towards violence against shop workers has been criticised recently, whilst they make plans to make attacks on staff a criminal offence. Hold the phone. Aren't attacks on anyone already an offence, or am I missing something here? The Co-Operative Group has submitted evidence to Holyrood Committee in response to a bill tabled by Labour MSP Daniel Johnson to strengthen safety measures for retail workers. In its written submission, the supermarket stresses that violence and abuse towards shop workers is at levels never seen before. The organisation has pointed the finger at Police Scotland for not taking attacks on workers seriously. Well, don't think you're special, Co-op. They don't take attacks on anyone seriously, unless of course you're in a protected group. They added, the lack of effective response is driving a belief across shop workers that abuse and violence against them is not taken seriously by the police. Indeed, there is widespread belief among shop workers that the level of abuse and violence is simply something they are expected to accept as part of the job and is not taken seriously. We believe that the resources available to Police Scotland should reflect a greater priority for tackling retail crime and especially abuse and violence towards shop workers to deliver a more effective response. How about no, Co-op? How about the police should prioritise the same towards victims of all crime? What makes you special enough to deserve priority response? Well, if this bill goes through, then it certainly strengthens the case that police are no longer a public service but are corporate bodyguards, protecting the rights of corporations rather than those of the public, who, in fact, they swear to protect. Police Scotland, however, have also welcomed the bill being introduced and have moved to reassure workers that it takes all crime seriously. But if that's the case, then why would you need a bill to protect the corporations over the public? A Force spokesperson said, "Police Scotland supports the position that everyone deserves a safe environment to live and work. So where's our bill to protect the public? All complaints of threats, intimidation and violence towards retail workers are taken seriously by Police Scotland and are thoroughly investigated. We would encourage anyone, employee or employer, to contact the police if they have been a victim of this type of crime. All workers, regardless of occupation or business sector, should be able to carry out their roles without fear of crime." Unbelievable. Bletchly in Milton Keynes now for Detective Constable Philip Baines, who has been accused of encouraging a victim not to make a statement about an assault. Clearly wasn't a shop worker then. Thank you to David for sending this link to me via email. Detective Constable Baines will face his hearing on the 9th of March, where the panel will determine whether or not he will face the consequences after he allegedly persuaded somebody not to make a formal statement after they were allegedly assaulted by a family member. If it is found to be proven, then Baines would have breached the standards of professional behaviour expected of him and a dismissal would be justified. I'll bring you more news on that as and when it becomes available. Now, the next two reports are centred around the same person and the police's actions and behaviour, or rather their inactions with regards to that person. Stephen Yaxley Lennon, otherwise known as Tommy Robinson, sees his fair share of police interactions. Most of the time it's the police after him for one reason or another, but occasionally it's to do with crimes committed against him or those who support him. In May of 2019, Robinson campaigned as an MEP and travelled to some locations in the northwest to pitch his attempt. Some of these events went without much issue, but some took a turn for the worst. Most notably his visit to Oldham, where police failed to keep separated the group who was there in support of the event and the group who was there to disrupt the event with violence. In fact, the Oldham event is, I believe, the most memorable of the campaign trail. Although if you click the link up the top there, you'll be able to see the footage that I took of the event at Liverpool when I attended to watch the police's actions and document them at the Tommy Robinson rally here in Liverpool, which at the end of the event saw me nearly hit with a flying bottle. Well, and I presume this is only being done due to the fact it was publicised so much and garnered so much interest. The police did in fact arrest 20 people from the Oldham incident after rocks, bottles and even a pair of scissors were thrown into a crowd of Robinson's supporters, a crowd that contained women and children. Now, the other news outlets won't say it, but I will. Almost every person involved in throwing missiles at the Robinson supporter crowd were Asian, and I'm guessing that due to Robinson's outspoken views, they were likely majority Muslim, which is backed up by the fact that the counter demonstration for Robinson's campaign rally was held by the Muslim Defence League. An eyewitness who didn't want to be named said, "I saw bricks being thrown into the crowds. There were police with shields and batons and the tactical aid unit was there. There were several dozen police at the start, there were eggs being thrown, but then people turned to bricks." Damage was caused to two Greater Manchester police cars. At the time, a police spokeswoman said a number of objects were thrown and some damage has been caused to two police vehicles, but there have been no reported injuries. The 20 people who are due to appear in court, some today, the 5th of March, and some on the 19th of March, are as follows. And please note that there are some non-Asian names in this list. Today's hearings: Haroon Hussain, 39 of Essex Street, Halifax, West Yorkshire. Hadir Ali, 25 of Olivia Terrace, Lee Street, Oldham, Manchester. Mubashir Khan, 25 of Worcester Street, Oldham, Manchester. Atik Uraham, 25, Edilham Road, Crumpsall, Manchester. Faraz Ahmed, 32 of Frederick Street, Oldham, Manchester. Majid Khan, 30, Worcester Street, Oldham, Manchester. Salman Ahmed, 21 of Tamworth Street, Oldham, Manchester. Mohammed Zishuan Khan, 21 of Cotton Mill Crescent, Oldham, Manchester. Cameron Ali, 27 of Savoy Street, Oldham, Manchester. Abdul Nazir, 27 of Hardy Street, Oldham, Manchester. Rahim Ahmed, 25 of Bankside Close, Oldham, Manchester. Aman Al-Haq, 19 of Frederick Street, Oldham, Manchester. Those appearing in court on the 19th of March are as follows. Mikhail Ahmed, 21 of Cummings Street, Oldham, Manchester. Matthew Henry, 25 of Alder Road, Oldham, Manchester. Dylan Simpson, 19 of Southcroft Street, Oldham, Manchester. Jaden Mack, 18 of Parkfield Avenue, Oldham, Manchester. Dwayne Coleman, 33 of Huntley Way, Rochdale, Manchester. Luke Tucker, 19 of Napier Street, Oldham, Manchester. And two boys, both aged 16 years, who cannot be named for legal reasons. Now, I will follow up on these court proceedings when more information becomes available. But this second incident, centred around Tommy Robinson, is the one that has been shared hundreds of thousands of times already since the video was posted on social media on Sunday, and involves his young daughter, who, on the 1st of March, was at Centre Parcs in Woburn Forest with her family. Robinson's own video, which by the audio indicates he was speaking to his daughter about a man touching her inappropriately while in the pool area. You can hear her explaining how the man grabbed her behind as she stood on the steps leading into the pool before rushing over to tell her father what had happened. In a subsequent video, we can see Robinson interacting with several police who then go on to arrest Robinson for assault. Now, from the information within Robinson's videos, it would appear that he approached the man who grabbed his daughter and questioned him. The man is alleged to have admitted that he grabbed her by accident. Then we hear about how Robinson tried to restrain the man who suffered an injury. Under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, Section 24A gives Robinson the right to make a citizen's arrest on anyone who he believes to be committing an indictable offence or suspected to be committing an indictable offence in order to prevent the person in question A. causing physical injury to himself or any other person, B. suffering physical injury, C. causing loss or of damage to property, or D. making off before a constable can assume responsibility for him. Clearly, a grown man indecently touching a young child is an indictable offence, and therefore detaining that person, especially to prevent them making off before a constable can assume responsibility for them, is perfectly lawful, as is using reasonable force to detain that person as set out in the Criminal Law Act 1967, the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, Common Law and the Criminal Justice and Immigration Act 2008, and the rights and freedoms contained within the European Convention of Human Rights, which govern the police use of force and also ours, whereby use of force should be reasonable in the circumstances. Reasonable in the circumstances means absolutely necessary for a purpose permitted by law. The amount of force must also be reasonable and proportionate, i.e. the degree of force used must be the minimum required in the circumstances to achieve the lawful objective. Otherwise, it is likely that the use of force will be excessive and unlawful. But yet Robinson was arrested for assault, and the police in his video admit they had not arrested the perpetrator of the assault against his daughter.
Let me explain.
Is he under arrest? Can you tell me, is he under arrest?
At the moment...
Is the man that sexually assaulted my daughter under arrest?
Can you let me explain? Can you let me explain? Right? We're trying to do this as tactfully as possible.
Well, you're not, because my kids
listen
are
to
here,
me,
you're
listen to me. Hang on, we've already spoken to your wife and your daughter, and my colleagues in there need to speak to your wife and daughter again. Somewhere probably a little bit more.
Can we just confirm one thing? Has he been arrested?
Right this very moment, no.
No, so you're nicking me and you're not nicking him.
No, we're investigating that. We have to
investigate
this.
So why do you have to nick me to investigate this?
The reports so far in the mainstream media are very sparse, but I think that no matter what your thoughts about Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley, Lennon are, those need to be put aside in order for you to see with clarity that this is nothing about his or your politics. This is about a child being touched inappropriately by an adult, and then when the father detains the offender, he then becomes the offender himself, while the perpetrator is allowed to walk away. Now, I called Bedfordshire Police to find out if they'd actually made an arrest or even interviewed the other man in relation to the assault against Robinson's daughter. They were unable to tell me, although they did say that somebody would call me back.
Hello?
Hello?
Hiya, I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
That's
I'm
fine.
just having problems actually locating. Let me see if I can get hold of the OIC. I won't keep you a moment.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello?
I'm sorry, my system's not working at the moment. So it's the incident regarding Yaxley Lennon.
Yeah.
Can I take your name, please?
Yeah, my name's Daniel.
And who do you work for, Daniel?
I'm independent.
Independent.
Yeah.
And what's your phone number? And what I'll do is I'll get somebody to give you a call back.
Thank you. It's 07...
And your you want to know whether the other person has been arrested?
Yeah, I just wanted to know whether or not he'd been arrested or in interviews.
Okay.
In relation.
I'm not sure if they'll be able to tell you, but I'll get hold of someone to give you a call back.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks
thank
now.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Obviously, as and when I have that information, I will let you know. But again, regardless to your political views or your thoughts about him himself, this is not about his beliefs. It's about the law. It's about what would you do as a father if this same thing happened to your child. It's about ensuring that children are shown the justice system works and that police are impartial in all dealings. And that is what this case will ultimately be known for. Will Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson, be found guilty of defending his daughter against something that no child should have to encounter? Or is it about the feelings of the establishment and their need to punish those who stand up against them, even when that drags in an innocent young child? Big thank you to the First Patreon supporters, Motty Lad and Holly, whose support is helping me to continue providing this content on a daily basis. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.
Good night, all.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.